So I know a couple of people will probably want to hop on there too. So you guys, welcome. I am so excited to meet with you guys. You guys are like making history. This is actually the first time that I put out to the group to have like a healthy hangout. So way to be a pioneer in the healthy hangout. I'm actually just a few housekeeping things. I'm going to be muting everybody on the call right now, so you don't have to worry about your background noise. If you have screaming kids, raise your hand if you have screaming kids in the background. Yeah, I do too. So that's totally fine. We'll mute you. Come off so we can see your face so that we can meet you. Your name's going to appear at the bottom, but this is a very interactive call. So I really want you guys to feel comfortable sharing some things that you're going through, and hopefully like we'll coach each other during this session and kind of learn a few things. So you can press unmute if you want to on the bottom left-hand side. So if you're on your computer, it's on the left-hand side, and also on your phone, just tap on the screen and you can come off mute. You can also chat. So if your background noise is too much, just go to the bottom and you can click on participants and chat. So we want to hear from you. Okay, let's get started. I want to hear where everybody's from. We kind of did a few introductions, but just hop in that chat thread and tell us where you're tuning in from. We have a few people are introducing themselves like all over the country. So fun. So,
yeah. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Oh, was it freezing up for a second? Okay, hopefully you got that. Yep, so we have Utah. I'm in Utah as well. We have Texas, New York. Where else do we have tuning in from? Lots of Texas, Washington, and Arizona, St. George, Texas. Texas is representing today. You might even have Utah beat. Colorado. Awesome, Utah. Very good. Okay, so from all over, so fun to meet you guys. I just want to say thank you for all of you who have been participating in our community, in our private group, I'm Healthy and I Know It. So this is going to be broadcast in that group as well if you want to listen to replay or anything like that, or else tag somebody else in the group that you know. So we're just going to jump right into it. I took a poll. If you guys haven't taken the poll, go to the group and look in there. And I just kind of threw out a couple topics that maybe we can, I would love to do these more in the future. Obviously, you guys have your own coaches. You're being supported that way. But a community is a huge part of what we do in the Optavia community. And so I want to make sure that you feel supported, that you know that you are not the only one doing this that has healthy goals. We are here. We have people that, I have people on here that have just started like even just a week ago. And then I've been at this at 8+ years. So we're all at different stages in our journey. We're all learning different things, and maybe even we're relearning different things. Anyone know what I'm talking about with that? I'm going to share a little story about my emotional eating, so it'll make you feel a little bit better. But that's part of the journey. That's part of the process, and it's all beautiful. So just a little bit, what I was hoping to do with this call is I want to give just a little bit instruction, just something that I've been thinking about with emotional eating, and then I really want to open it up to where we get to coach each other, to where I want to hear from you, some emotions that you're going through, some things that you're learning. Okay, deal? But just to kind of share my experience, as I polled the whole group, I noticed that emotional eating was the topic that won by far of the thing that you guys all want to hear about. I wonder why. This is crazy that right now we might be dealing with this. This is actually not a new thing for me. This is a huge reason of why I am on my own health journey. 8 years ago, I thought I was a completely healthy person. I really did. I started coaching other people because I thought other people needed to get healthy. I was at a healthy weight, yeah. But I had no idea until I opened up the Life book and who has a copy of Dr. A's Habits of Health book and the Life book? Okay, so many of you have a copy of this. If you don't, this is a little shameless plug to start reading this, because this really did change my life. But when I started reading that, you guys, I realized that health is not just a scale number. It is so much more, that it is all about all the healthy habits. And I had no idea that I had certain habits that I was doing that were that would be qualified as emotional eating. Like I didn't put that identity on myself. I wasn't like, I'm an emotional eater. But when I started reading and learning more about it, I thought, yeah, I eat out of emotion a lot. I don't just eat to fuel my body. I eat because of emotions. And some of that, obviously, I wanted to keep the same. You know, when I have a birthday, I actually want to emotionally eat my birthday cake. That's something I choose. But I started looking at some other habits that, you know, when I was stressed, I noticed I would automatically go to the pantry. When I felt overwhelmed, stressed, I'd like walk to the pantry. And I didn't even know I was doing that until I stopped myself and thought, why am I walking to the pantry? And I would just shove chocolate chips. I know that's really lame for some people, but I usually try to keep a lot of healthy. I don't keep a lot of unhealthy things in my house, and chocolate chips was the only thing that I had to binge on. So I'd eat chocolate chips. So I really worked on that for years and years and years. And I actually feel like I have been in a really good place. And do you guys know what happened 2 weeks ago? You know, when all this kind of came down, you know, the day where we're all like, wait, what's happening with the world? What's happening with everything, right? It was that day. And I think we found out like the next day or something that school was canceled and all this stuff, right? It just came crashing down. And all of a sudden, I felt all of these habits that I had thought I had figured out 8 years ago. I felt some of them coming back. It was like a neural pathway in my brain that I hadn't used for a really, really long time that all of a sudden I reverted back to. It was the weirdest feeling. I don't know if anybody else could relate to this. Please say you can relate to me, or I might just be crazy. But I felt like for about 3 or 4 days, I reverted back to some of the old habits that I had not used for a really, really long time. And for me, it's relating to stress and overwhelm. And I was feeling a lot of stress and overwhelm with managing my kids and the situation and business and everything. And I had to consciously have a little chit chat with myself. I sat myself down and I said, all right, let's get this together. What's going on here? And I journaled and I wrote down what was happening in my brain. Like, because I felt this emotion, what am I doing? And it was fascinating to see what I found. Can I share with you guys what has helped me this time around? And I know this stuff. It's not if you know it or not. If you're learning it today for the first time, great, but it's actually applying it. Some of you guys have been around for many, many years and you know this, but let's have this be a reminder. Okay, so can I talk to you guys just first about this, what I found? I want to open it up first. Emotional eating. Let's break this down. Emotional eating. Isn't that interesting that we put those two words together? Just starting off, isn't that interesting? Emotion and eating. We smack those two words together and we make it a word that we're like, oh yeah, everybody knows what that is. So I want you guys to even think about that. Do those two words even belong together? Do they even need to be together? Do we need to attach emotion to eating? I'd love some feedback on this, actually, now that you thought about it for a second. Do these two words even need to be together? Comfort food, yes. Anybody have a comment on this?
Yeah, Chantel, really, for me, the eating is a buffer. It's like I'm bored or sad or lonely. I find myself eating because it temporarily takes my mind off of being lonely, bored, or so it's not so much that I eat when I'm happy or, you know, to celebrate. It's more for me to buffer it, to not feel it.
Okay, this is huge right now. Think about this. We use food to buffer our emotion instead of feel. So what does a buffer mean? Think about like if you're buffering something, like I think about, I put like on my hardwood floors, right? Instead of putting wood on wood, like a chair on wood, I put something in between, like a little felt tip on it, so it doesn't scratch the floor, right? So there's something in between it so that there's not a contact. In that case, a buffer would be good. But some cases, and this is not to say that emotional eating is bad. Maybe you came to this and you're like, I need to stop emotional eating. That's not our purpose of the call today. The purpose of the call is just to create awareness over this. I love how Laurie said, you're putting a Band-Aid on the cut. Maybe we're not even addressing what's underneath this. So buffering is when we, instead of feeling the emotion and processing the emotion, we're slapping something over the top instead of processing it. So that's actually where I wanted to go with this today. There are so many ways that we can learn, and we can even do more of these webinars on this topic. But today I want to go in the direction of, instead of buffering that emotion and going to food, what do we do instead? What can we do instead? What is that process? What does that look like? When I'm stressed, I go straight to the pantry. And instead of just grabbing the food and shoveling it in, what could I do instead? Okay, so I want to go over. Oh, did you have a comment, Mike, in real quick?
Yeah, really quick.
Yeah.
I don't know who Midge is, but I loved her comment. She said, I feel like the cooking shows and videos definitely play on emotions for desire, vacation, and travel. I feel like it gets tied to so many feel-good feelings that way. And I feel like I love what Chantel's saying, but the first thing for me that I had to identify is that food is fuel. That's exactly what Midge is saying. That so everything is about food in our world. So we have to have this mind shift where we say, no, we don't go to food every time something is fun, or every time we're sad, or every time, we're stressed. We realize that food is there to enjoy. It's fuel for our bodies. And then we can move on to making that shift. I think that was a comment.
That is gold right there. Yes, completely. Food is fuel. And to identify what that emotion is, like, actually, this is the very first step right here. So when we're in that moment, whether we're watching the show, the cooking show online, or whatever the emotion is, think about, actually, somebody give me an example. Let's do like a real life example. Somebody raise their hand and share with us an example of maybe somebody who has been struggling with this.
So having your kids at home and it's like crazy town, fighting. I noticed when the kids were home that I was like turning to food more than I normally would have ever in the past, just because of the craziness going on around me. So it was like a way to deal.
Absolutely. I love this example. Anybody else in the same boat? I'll raise my hand. Yes, me. Apply it to whatever your situation is, but this is the first step. Heidi, identify. Step one is to identify the emotion. I'm going to pull up, before you tell us what it is, Heidi, I'm going to pull up. Have you guys seen the emotion wheel? This is so helpful. I've actually printed this off and put it on my fridge for my kids, so that I think it's a great thing for kids, but it's also good for mom and dad. I'm going to pull it up here, and I want you, Heidi, to think, what is it? Which emotion would you describe it as? And what this emotion wheel does is it not only, it has the core emotions in the middle: sad, mad, scared, joyful, powerful, peaceful, but it has all the ones kind of delving a little bit deeper. The more specific you can be, the more powerful, and the more you can I really identify it and live in it and process it. If you just say, I'm mad. What if you said, I'm actually feeling like distant? Doesn't that give just so much more language and so much more explanation to it? So Heidi, where would you say you are on this wheel? You can come up with your own words too, but these are just some examples.
I think I was super in that moment. I was super discouraged and overwhelmed.
Discouraged and
So like under
overwhelmed.
scared.
Right. Okay. And that's interesting too, to look right here and say overwhelmed. That's actually a feeling of scared. It kind of helps you identify that a little bit more. I didn't put that together. I forgot that overwhelmed is under scared. I thought overwhelmed would be more under like sad or something, but that makes so much sense. Scared and overwhelmed. Okay, so Heidi, identifying this emotion, okay, naming it. This is part of the stop, challenge, and choose. Those of you who have learned that is stopping yourself before you go to the food. So the emotional eating is you feel the emotion, you go straight to the food. Did you guys know that there's actually a space in between your feeling and your thoughts and shoving the food in your face? Sometimes we think there isn't, right? We just think directly into mouth. And some of my clients, when I coach them on this, they go, I don't even know. I didn't even think about it. I don't know. I don't know what happened. And we can allow ourselves to not let it happen, or we can actually stop ourselves and create that space and really think about it. So Heidi, when you've now named it, are you feeling overwhelmed right now? Is that the feeling you're feeling right now?
Not so much right now, but when everything's kind of coming down, I felt overwhelmed, and like super discouraged. Like the thought of homeschooling my kids just seemed just so out of question, just like so overwhelming to me.
Absolutely. Perfect. Okay. Good. Okay. I want to hear from somebody else. I want to hear an emotion that you are feeling right now. And then I want to coach somebody on how to process that emotion, the full process.
I have one that I want to share.
Hannah, we'd love to hear.
Okay, sorry, I have to go into our room because I'm still at work. But I was talking to about this last night because I work in the health department, and so it's been a little bit chaotic for us. And yesterday I'm the one that has to write all the press releases to let the people in the county know when we have new cases. And it's a little intense, and then we have to follow all the comments that are going on social media and whatnot. And I had a friend, he calls me every single day and says, when do I think it's gonna end? When do I think it's gonna end? And it drives me bananas. And so I've intentionally been screening health. And yesterday, I finally answered the phone and I said, if you're gonna ask me when it's gonna end, I'm hanging up on you. And he said, I'm not gonna ask you when it's gonna end, I'm gonna ask when it's gonna peak. And I hung up. But I all week long have been saying, I need some chocolate, or man, I need this, or man, I need that. And my coworkers are like, honey, you don't need chocolate. What are you talking about? And it's just been frustrating because, like, yes, I get that, like, I don't know. I feel like my emotion is a little bit different because it's never, like, chaos has never directly been my job to manage, you know? And that's kind of the boat that we're in right now, of like the ones trying to keep the panic down, but still trying to make sure people have the right information. And so I definitely have been redirecting to, I need some chocolate, or I need a soda, or I need to eat bread. That has been the thing. I go to the bakery down the block because it's still open, because they do takeout and they have the best stuff. And so like, if I need to get away from my computer and walk around the block, go figure, the only store that's open is the bakery. So, yeah.
Okay, this is a great example. So Hannah, I hear you saying, and it was a little choppy for me, but I heard you saying that when you would have conversations with certain people, it would create thoughts and emotions in you of an emotion. It sounds like it came out as frustration.
Yes.
Is that what you would pick on the wheel?
Yes.
Okay, frustration. Okay, so frustration, and if you even want to like write this out, journaling helps me so much. Frustration equals chocolate. It sounds like in your brain.
Yeah.
Right? Hold on. Just a minute, let me get. Okay, frustration equals chocolate. There is a pathway in your brain, and let's just look at this logically. What's happening in your brain? So remove all of the shame and guilt. Sometimes when I talk to my clients, they're like embarrassed to tell me this. They're like, oh, like I can't believe it. Like I'm so bad. Like I ate chocolate, right? And like, let's just look at this practically. There is a neural pathway in your brain that when you feel frustration, it is linked to chocolate. And it's only because you've done that before. That's the only reason why it's there. It's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you have failed. It is just that has happened one time before and your brain is used to going there. Somehow the connection has happened. Okay. So now now that we have that underway, we can remove that. We can say, okay, so now let's look at that. Let's look at to see what we can do instead. What can we do? So this kind of planning for the future a little bit. Frustration. So this is emotion that you're feeling currently, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is fantastic. This is gonna be fun. Okay. So once we've identified, the second step is to now locate it in your body.
Well, right now it's kind of right here, right in the base of my skull, at the top of my neck, and it's also in my chest.
Interesting. Okay, if you guys are doing this at home, do your own, because you don't logically, the words that I'm saying, it might sound funny. You might be like emotion in your body. What? Like this doesn't make sense, right? It's emotion, it's energy in motion. It's just in your body somewhere. It's just motion in your body. So we need to go find that. And you won't understand until you actually do it. Because I laughed when I heard this first. I was like, okay, this sounds a little hokey to me. But until you experience it and you close your eyes and do it, you're like, oh, there it is. Yep, it is there. It's right there. It's at the base of my skull. I can feel it right there. I can feel it in my chest. Okay, so now, Hannah, now that you see where it is, how the third step is describing it with an ing word. So like it could be pounding, it could be squeezing, it could be prickly, it could be bumpy, it could be soft, it could be melty. Like, or use any ing word or describing word.
Well, the feeling in my chest, I would say, is definitely kind of that squeezing thing. In my head, I don't know, it just feels like my ponytail's too tight. So I don't know if that would be
squeezing,
that
maybe
would be like a squeezing word too, or not.
Squeezing, yeah. Okay, it's a squeezing feeling in the back of your neck. Yes. Okay, so now that we know where that is, I want you to close your eyes. Do you have a minute where you can do this?
Yep.
Okay, so close your eyes. And if you guys want to play along and do this with me about your emotion, when you close your eyes, I want you to feel that emotion. Okay, so this is different than thinking about it. So get out of your head, get out of your thoughts. We're not thinking, oh, that coworker, I wonder if they're going to call me again. I can't believe they said that. I can't believe it. Okay, out of your thoughts into your body. Frustration, back of neck, squeezing, chest, however you describe it, squeezing, pounding. And just feel what it feels like to be frustrated. You get the opportunity right now to feel what it feels like to be a human. You are feeling frustration. And I want you to focus on your breath. So in through your nose, out through your mouth. And sometimes it can get really, really intense. If this is a really deep-seated, intense emotion, you might feel the emotion coming out of your eyes. You might start crying. You might feel even more frustrated from it. It might get worse before it gets better. Just breathe through it. Okay. This process can happen. I kind of forgot I was on Zoom. Hello, everybody. I was in a different world for a second. This process can happen. Usually it's about 60 to 90 seconds that this can happen. It's like a wave. You've been to the beach, you know when waves come in and then they come out, and it's just predictable. You will, as you practice this, you will have confidence that the waves are going to come in and they're also going to come out. This is not going to stay. I think we're scared that the emotion is going to stay and we're scared of it. But it's just like a wave. It's coming in and it will also come out. So Hannah, I want to hear your experience with doing that.
Well, interestingly enough, I realized that my frustration is probably something completely different than what I thought it was. Made me realize I was thinking more about the fact that I'm frustrated that I can't come home anytime soon, because 2 of my vacations I had planned to come back to Utah are now canceled. And so that I think that really being able to sit with it and recognize that I wasn't really frustrated about the thing I thought I was frustrated about. It was something different. But also that's not really the end of the world either. Like there are things that I can still do. Like, yeah, I can't go see my family, but I can still FaceTime with them, or I can do, other things. And so, yeah, being able to recognize like what I can and can't control was definitely helpful.
Wow. That's cool that you actually even got deeper on that, because that's the last step in all of this. The 5th step is to learn from the wisdom. Learn from the wisdom. We're just going to learn what that brought. And for Hannah, that brought clarity of what's really happening. She's actually frustrated about something else. If you're still in, if say you felt that emotion, and some questions you can ask yourself are, if you felt sadness, what wants to be let go of? For anger, what wants to be stopped? For fear, what wants to be known? And for joy, what wants to be celebrated? So asking yourself these questions, just kind of learning more about yourself. This is really where this emotion gets to be, this completes that process. Now, Hannah, we got some clarity. And isn't it interesting? Well, tell me how this is different than maybe yesterday when you went to the chocolate. So you felt the frustration and you went to the chocolate, and today we felt this frustration and now we're getting a little bit deeper. Kind of tell me how that feels, the difference between the two.
I mean, it feels better because my thought now is, now that I know that my frustration is I miss my family, I can half an hour on my lunch break FaceTime one of my sisters, rather than going to the bakery like I did yesterday. Because as soon as I left the bakery, I was like, this really didn't do me any good. Plus it's my rest day, so I'm not going to go run this off. What have I done? Kind of thing. And being able to recognize a healthier, emotionally healthier and physically healthier alternative to the emotion, definitely.
So many benefits to that of what we did today, that processing, versus if you would have just gone to the chocolate, we would have not found out any of that, right? We would have been in the same situation, but kind of worse, because then you might have added shame or guilt on not sticking with your health goals, or whatever you have thoughts you have going on in your brain, right? So isn't it interesting that you processed your emotion and food was not even related? It is totally, and I'm always telling my kids this, emotions are just to be felt. All we have to do is sit there. We don't have to do anything for emotions. We feel like the need, we feel like we have to do something. We feel like we have to punch. I literally, this happened with my 11-year-old yesterday. And he was about to punch his brother. And I just grabbed him. I hugged him and I said, Austin, let's just feel anger right now. I just like physically like grabbed him. I said, hey, let's just feel it right now. Let's just feel anger. Tell me what anger feels like. And he's like, oh, I punch you. Oh, my brother. And I just hugged him and I patted his back and I said, okay, isn't it interesting that you don't even have to punch, but you can still feel anger? Tell me more about how that feels. And he was just like, he went on and on and on. He kind of went into the thought side of things. He was like, he did this, he did this, he did this. I said, no. Tell me how it feels in your body. Where is it? He's like, it's in my fist. Like, oh, the anger's in your fist. Interesting. Tell me what that feels like. Tell me what that like what, yeah. And I loved how somebody said the color. I loved any describing factors. And it was so crazy, you guys, just to notice, like he was resisting my hug. And then all of a sudden he just melted into it. And then he just stopped. I was like, oh, there's the anger. It just went away. And he just went on playing. But it's just so fascinating to see that 90-second wave of that emotion. And we want to act on it. My point is, our brain tells us we have to act on it right now. You're stressed. You need chocolate. You are going to die. I have totally been there. My brain is convinced I am going to die if I don't get the chocolate. My brain is convinced if I don't call and chew out that person that they're going to be in the right? Like whatever, like your brain wants to tell you all these things, but you can actually just sit. And that's actually the only way to process through it is to sit, and you can look totally normal. You can do this in any situation. I like to do it alone in a room. Just close your eyes and feel every emotion under the sun. You don't even have to move a muscle if you don't want to. If you want to bang out your pillow, that's fine too. I choose just to feel it. Okay. I want some takeaways. What did you guys experience? I want to hear some thoughts from you guys.
Chantel, I love that, because it's kind of like we diagnose, kind of like with Hannah, she wasn't diagnosed correctly even. And so it really diagnoses how we're feeling, and then what is the medication or the solution. It's not always a Band-Aid, where food is the Band-Aid. Maybe we need a ACE wrap or stitches. It was really eye-opening to me to see that sometimes when we feel and we go straight to food, we haven't even diagnosed what's really bothering us. And so I like that Band-Aid analogy and the diagnosis and then the solution, the real solution. So that was really eye-opening to me.
Wow, what a perfect analogy. And that's what the buffer is. It is that Band-Aid just pinning over, which you can Band-Aid a lot of emotions, emotional eating, you can Netflix, you can veg, there's a lot of things, like even exercise can be a buffer. Obviously that's a healthy exercise, but maybe an over exerciser, maybe that turns into unhealthy. Anytime you're resisting the emotion and doing something else instead, that's that Band-Aid. Cleaning, you can, I know. And maybe you don't want to stop the buffer. Again, we're not saying that these are bad or good, right? I'm not saying when you emotionally, you have to stop. It is just creating awareness. Isn't that interesting that when I feel stressed, I start cleaning? Maybe that's something I want to keep. I don't know. But at least you know it. It's like you watch yourself. You are on a movie. You are the actor in this movie, and you're watching them and you're just learning more about them. Oh, that's interesting. This character named Amy, this is her tendencies, right?
Chantel,
Yeah,
can I share something?
please.
So I've you know, hearing this and practicing it for about 3 years. And just today, like it really struck me as I am able to, I just always felt like emotions just happened to me. Like I had no control over them. And then the result of what I did because of that emotion was also totally out of my control. And I love Cheryl used the word like, this is powerful, because that's what I am feeling today. Like when I can take a minute to try to figure out what is it I'm feeling? Why am I here in the pantry grabbing whatever it is? You know, am I feeling happy? Am I feeling worried? I'm really good at worrying about things. You know, is that anxious about what's going on? And just those moments of analyzing that and understanding my feelings better just makes me feel empowered and helps that control return to me instead of feeling out of control.
Empowerment. Wow. Does anybody else feel that way? I totally do. Yes. Love that, Laurie. What a great perspective. I know, Cheryl, did you want to say something? I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I need to get this book out and get it read because that was a powerful exercise. I have lots of emotions and I always go to the ice cream. So just slowing down and closing my eyes and doing the breathing, that was very powerful. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm excited to hear what takeaways you have. It's kind of an out of body experience. The first time I tried it, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. It was crazy. And I ended up feeling the same way Laurie described, very, very empowered. And it's like a muscle. Okay. So the first time you may have good experience, you may flop, it might be all over the board, but remember, we're doing reps and we're building the strength. So the first time you pick up a weight, a 5-pound weight, you know, it's not going to be the first time, it's going to be every single time that you practice this. So you might do this a dozen times every day and it's going to become more and more a part of your life. Yeah. So those of you that are on
graphic, can you send me the graphic? I'd like to put it on my fridge and my pantry door.
Yes, absolutely. I will put this on our Facebook group in the chat thread. I'll put the 5 steps and I'll put that emotion wheel for everybody.
Thanks.
Yep. Anyone else want to share their experience or a thought that they had during this exercise?
I'll share something that I was thinking. As I was sitting here and like thinking about my own emotions, but also taking the time to listen to Hannah's experience, it actually made me start thinking about how often am I thinking about how other people are experiencing like what they're going through. And it actually made me forget everything that I was feeling up to this point. And I was like, oh my gosh, how can we help Hannah? Or, you know, like my heart actually went out to her more than whatever feeling I had beforehand. And so it made me think about, especially during this time where everybody is pretty out of sorts for the most part, like how often are we being open and curious to, well, how is this person feeling with their situation? I mean, she works for the health department and stuff. She's in a completely different position than I am, just as a mom. And so it just made me think about it so much more on like a deeper level and just be so grateful too for like what she's willing to do to help us and, you know, the process that she's going through. And it made me actually feel more positive emotions. Actually, it kind of took away the negative ones sometimes. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
I love that perspective. Can I tell you something that I found over the past several years? A little secret inside of humanity, and maybe you found this too, is that we're all just walking around worried about ourselves, thinking about ourselves. This is what we all do. Okay. So we're all thinking about ourselves and we're all wondering what other people think about us. And we're all in our head. We're all in the motion and whatever. And when we go and step out of that, it's kind of a crazy experiment of stepping out of that and getting into somebody else's world. That's all people are wondering. They're not thinking about us. They're thinking about them and their emotions that they're going through. So I love that challenge. And And Corinne, just that perspective of what if we just for a minute got in somebody else's world and helped them experience that, and how much more could that even help them process that emotion? Giving that gift. I do this with my clients on the daily or at least on the weekly, where we're talking about this, working it through, and sometimes it's helpful just to get it out loud, whether it's a child, a client, or somebody.
I want to say something. I totally loved how she shifted from the person who she was super frustrated with to the real emotion of where the frustration was coming from. Because I know that when I get frustrated with my kids, it's not always really about what my kids are doing. It's more about me. And so when you talk about shifting away from yourself and being in here, and all of a sudden her real frustration came from somewhere else and it projected onto this person. And yeah, it totally made sense to me, because I remember stepping back from situations and really thinking about it. And it was more about image, or I want to be home, or the stress of the day, or where I wanted to be other than where I was at that moment and at that time.
That is taking personal responsibility right there and saying, what is it in me? Holding up the mirror first, saying, what is it in me that maybe I'm seeing the world this way because of some emotion that I'm going through, and taking personal responsibility of, I'm going to process my own emotions, and then I will show up differently in the world. That's a great point, Brenda. I love that.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Please.
I also work in a rather stressful situation right now, and fortunately it's not every day. But what I find is that all of us are stressed out at work, and we're dealing with other people's frustration all the time. We're working on getting supplies out to first responders and nursing homes, and everyone needs it. Everyone needs it, and we don't have it. We don't have enough of it. So throughout the day, we're constantly fielding other people's frustration and emotion and fear, a lot of fear. And we get worn down. And then we, as a group, we find ourselves almost emotionally eating as a group. So my question is, how I feel like I do this better at home when I can kind of step away for a minute and close my door and take my time to deal with my own emotions. But I'm not really sure how to approach that when I'm in a group setting and all of us are feeling that way, and all of us are kind of leaning toward that and saying, I feel this way, and then the other person says I do too, and then the other person says I do too, and then we all end up eating together. Do you have any suggestions or ideas for that?
What a great question, Allison. And maybe somebody else is going through something similar like this, where you are mirroring emotion of other people, possibly. And even when there are a collective group of people, sometimes that can even confirm in your mind the story that we're telling ourselves, or the emotion. So it even validates it more, right? I'm feeling stressed, and oh my gosh, 10 other people around me are feeling stressed. Therefore, stress is real. And I have to feel stressed right now. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with like the toilet paper, right? Like if everyone's rushing to get toilet paper, you're like, wait, am I missing something? Like I need to go get toilet paper. Like everyone thinks it. So therefore I have to think it, right? This group think type idea. And first of all, that's just interesting just to look at that and just say, what do I learn from that? First of all. And I'm just wondering, and I would love the group to help Allison, but my question I have for Allison is, what would happen? How would life be different if you did not take on the emotions of other people and you just managed your own emotions? So all you did was you were responsible for you and all of the emotions of your group, of your coworkers, and then also the other people that are coming to you. What if you only put yourself in charge of your own emotions?
Well, wouldn't that be nice? and I know I say this and I think I'm taking on other people's emotions. And my problem is, I don't know if I ever learned how not to. And, I think all of us do to some extent. And I think it's probably worse now for me because I'm also a mom. And being a mom, I tend to do that to my kids and take on their emotions, right? That's what we do. And it would be better if I didn't do that with my kids as well, right? Because then I could help them better understand how to deal with it. So that's something to think about and to consider, to learn how to focus on maybe insulating myself from other people's emotions, or not taking it on, saying I understand that you feel this way, and not taking that into my own being.
And I wonder if we just start instead of, so sometimes when we identify a problem, we want to fix it, right? We want to say, I don't want to feel that way anymore. So like, how do I not feel that way? How do I insulate myself? How do I fix this? And what if you started out with just being aware of and curious about what that would look like? And maybe even noticing how that even works. Like, just watch the movie, watch the reruns, rerun it 100 times.
Yeah.
And just be like, that's interesting. When my child is sad, that I feel sadness. Because we don't have to fix that. Like, maybe we don't want to fix that. Oh, that's interesting. When my coworker comes to me, I feel this way. Just watching that over and over and over again. Does anybody have any advice or questions for Allison?
Yeah, I as Allison would, you asked her what would that look like? It is totally normal to go, oh, and more of how am I going to do that, right? But really the how comes, and it's actually imagining what that looks like without taking on that emotion and holding that. What would that be for you? As soon as you feel that and see that, then it builds a structural tension, and you start making choices to create that in your life. So it's kind of like you don't even need to know how to do that. But like, I love the suggestion, really think like how, if you could do that, and if you knew how, and that was happening in your life, what would things would be differently? Well, how would you feel at work, and the choices you'd make? And you're going to start, because you felt that, you're going to start making those decisions automatically. You don't need to know how.
I have one, Shan. Whenever this happens to me, I feel like it's really, and I don't always do it automatically. So I love how, was it Allison that said, I don't think I've ever been taught to do that. Something that I've learned as I've gotten older is it's really important for me to, because sometimes I'll like do exactly what, like take it on as fast as I can. And oh my gosh, I'm so whatever emotion that person's feeling, until I take a minute to step back, and I'll ask myself, I wonder why they're feeling that way first. I wonder what might be going on that's causing them to feel that way, because now I want to take on their emotion. And it's so interesting to me when I step back and I take a minute, especially with people closest to us, right, in our families, and just wonder, like, why are they having this emotion right now? Then it gives me the opportunity to understand them better, and then go back to my own self and say, yeah, I don't need to take that on, because that's something that they're dealing with. I can be there for them, but I don't need to take it on. When I can step back and try to understand why they're feeling that, it makes it so much easier for me to contain my peace. That makes sense.
Not only I don't need to take it on, you can't take it on. There's no, you're not bettering the situation. It's like two people feeling horrible instead of just one person feeling it, and then them being able to process through the emotion. It's so interesting to me how that feeling of being a hero to other people. So in the drama triangle, those of you who have learned about the drama triangle, that have read that in the life book, when you are a hero, how The outcome of hero is that you feel burnt out. It's not sustainable. That's usually my take. Like whenever I feel burnt out, I go, oh, I'm heroing somewhere down the road. And it's okay. It's just, hey, the awareness behind where it is. So again, as we close today, I want you guys to just really focus on the one word of awareness. I don't want you to get off this call and think it's all going to be fixed or that you can fix it. Your only homework is create the awareness around it and watch yourself. Watch the movie, watch the reruns. And I want you to talk to your coach about this and report back to them what you see in your movie. What is the movie that's being replayed over and over again? What is the emotion and what is the reaction that's happening in your life? We usually we have the neural pathways in our brain that we all go to. We are all different, unique humans. And so we are wired differently. And so you probably have a couple that are your go-tos that happen more frequently. So those are the ones I want you to focus on. The ones you keep seeing, the scene that replays over and over in your movie. What is it? Talk to your coach, identify it, and that's all. You can go through the processing if you want, but I want you to really, really focus on that awareness. You guys good with that? Okay, yes, and your coach will hold some space for you to we'll talk that out and to process that. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for hopping on our Healthy Hangouts. I would love to do another one. Keep your notifications on in our Facebook group so that you can see the next one that we're doing. I'm hoping to do these weekly. We can hop on it and I'll share your experience, but thank you so much for sharing with us. We'll see you guys. Bye.